Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we are talking about some planetary energies that will be affecting all of us. That's right. We are talking about Jupiter in the sign of Aries, and it is kind of really going to be one of the most important transits of all of 2022 and kind of going into 2023. So this is going to be a huge one for most of us. And a lot of times it's going to be kind of more in the background affecting things and not necessarily like in your face. Not like a Mercury in retrograde where all of a sudden your phone stops working or you miscommunicate with a lot of people. This is going to be kind of like a big one, but it's going to be kind of in the background of kind of like pushing us from behind. So Jupiter in the sign of Aries is huge and bold and very dominant and kind of pushing us and kind of pushing us to kind of really listen to our inner gut feelings of what do we want to do or how do we want to do this. So this is going to be a really amazing one, but it's going to feel a little bit differently. And Aries has that energy of just kind of like, just do it, or be in action, take the initiative, really kind of like, what do you want to bring into existence? What do you want to create during this time frame? Making things happen, being in action all the time, all of that kind of stuff, kind of taking a stand. And this is going to be really important because we also have our Pluto return for the United States. And so this is going to kind of be pushing people to kind of like take a stand, get your word heard, kind of like that sort of thing. You're going to see this a lot over the next years, just over a year. So let's talk about it. Let's basically from May 11th, 2022 until May of 2023, we have 12 months of Aries energy pushing Jupiter. This is going to be in retrograde, out of retrograde. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be pushing this energy. And so Aries energy is, like I said, is really about taking a stand or kind of pushing the agenda of like, what do you want to create? Where do you want to go with this? And it's going to be kind of wanting that energy to kind of take forefront. Now, when Jupiter is in retrograde, it will go back into the sign of Pisces for a little bit, which is going to be kind of giving us some time to kind of like take some energy of like, what do we require at this time frame? What do we want to do right now? What is it kind of like the here and now, like the permanent, like what do we want to do? How do we want to be in flow in this energy is going to be really, really positive. When Jupiter ends in the sign of Pisces, is a good time to kind of bring those dream visions forward, kind of like, what do we want to do? What kind of the vision for the future? How do we want to see this in the future? Kind of like not all the pieces to get there. We just want to see the puzzle all put together, not all the pieces that had to come together at the different times to have it done, but it's kind of more like, where do we want to go with this? So this is really important. But when Jupiter is in the sign of Aries, it's time to take action. It's time to move forward. It's time to just do it and kind of push that agenda of like, what do you want to turn into realities? What are the visions you want to push forward? I would say nothing really could stop you during this time frame of what you really want to create or what you really want to do in this time frame. So that's really a great time to kind of like, what do I want to keep moving forward, changing or adjusting, moving forward. Of course, this is a great time to start a business. If you've already been in the works of that, kind of like working on that, that's a great time to kind of really keep that in mind. If you already have a business, this is a great time of like, what are the changes that I want to make? How do I want to make different, make things change, modify different, and that's kind of a good thing to kind of always, with business, you're always kind of doing that anyway, but this is a really great time to push this over this May 2022 to May 2023 energy. This is going to be kind of like some amazing energy. Of course, we have Pluto in Capricorn, we have Saturn in Aquarius, we have Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Aries, Uranus in Taurus, and all of these signs are all of these things are kind of keeping things in motion, kind of like how are they gonna fix. And it's one of those, it really depends on your natal chart, like which ones are stronger, which are the houses that are going to be activated this time frame, where is this all coming from. And this is a great time to kind of decide what you want to create in your world. So let's talk about some dates over the next year or so that are going to be kind of really important to keep in mind. So of course today at this time frame is May 11th, 2022. Jupiter enters the sign of Aries. On May 29th, we have Jupiter conjunct Mars in the sign of Aries, and this one is going to be really pushing some energy. Both of them in the sign of Aries is going to be pushing, and Mars is kind of like action and getting things done now. And then it's going to be in the sign of Aries, which is about action and getting things done now. And then you have Jupiter in there all about expansion and growth now. So it's going to be kind of, that's going to be a really good aspect for a lot of people of kind of like pushing this energy of what do we want to do. And after this conjunction over the next 9 months, it's going to be kind of feel like Jupiter's kind of going like underground, or not is there, or not in our face as much, but it's still going to be around. It's really going to be amping things up. So let's talk about a couple of these other ones. On July 29th, we have Jupiter goes into retrograde in the sign of Aries. And that's all about rethinking, readjusting, removing what are the obstacles in our space. October 28th, we have Jupiter re-enters the sign of Pisces. November 24th, we have Jupiter goes direct in the sign of Pisces. And then December 20th, Jupiter re-enters the sign of Aries. March 2nd, 2023, we have Jupiter conjunct Venus in the sign of Aries. We have March 12th, we have Jupiter conjunct Venus in March 12th, we have Jupiter conjunct Chiron in the sign of Aries. And Chiron is all about our wounded healer. And so this is going to be bringing up a lot of things of like heal now, move into action now. And wounded healer is like we've all been through things and we've all gotten over things, but this is going to be kind of like spurring us to finish that healing and move forward. Next, on March 28th, 2023, we have Jupiter conjunct Mercury in the sign of Aries. And then April 27th, we have Jupiter conjunct our Sun in the sign of Aries. And then May 16th, we have Jupiter leaves Aries. And May 17th, Jupiter is at 0 degrees of Taurus, squares Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And all of that is going to make a difference as we kind of move through this energy. And then, of course, in March 2023, Jupiter kind of reawakes in that sign of Aries and kind of just really comes forward. And then conjunct with Chiron, Venus, and Mercury all at the same time. All of these energies will be building up for the first 9 months of the transition as it kind of goes off grid or kind of like crazy zone in March 2023. This will be kind of like a great time to kind of witness the true power of transits. Jupiter in the sign of Aries is going to be starting with a huge bang and ends with an even bigger bang. So this is going to be like, oh my gosh, here we go. Exactly as Jupiter leaves Aries and moves into the sign of Taurus next May. Jupiter will be square, like I said, will be 0 degrees of Pluto in Aquarius. And this aspects are very important because they speak about the new beginnings, kind of like what's new. The square is Jupiter and Pluto square is the first square of Pluto-Jupiter cycle that began in March 2022. Jupiter and Pluto square carries all or nothing energy, kind of like get it done or get out of the way, kind of like do this or move on down the road. It is going to be a really great modifying one and a really great amplifying energy. So with this Pluto Jupiter energy, it's going to really be pushing all of us to do this all or nothing energy. really in Aquarius is all about this collective energy, and it really symbolizes kind of like our society norms and conventions, like what's normal for us. And it could be as regional as possible. It could be like, this is normal in Texas, but it may not be normal in Arizona. It could be normal in New York City, but maybe not normal in Washington State. So it's kind of like one of those interesting energies, and you're going to see a lot of that come up during that time frame in that March 2023 energy, kind of like pushing this agenda of like, what are the social norms for what your area, and then it could also be our social norms for just the United States, because we're kind of different from everybody else and everybody else is different from us, so it kind of makes it interesting. Let's see, Jupiter and Pluto square in the same sign will kind of be pushing this energy kind of against like Saturn Uranus square, kind of like pushing all of this energy together. And it's kind of like, which one do you resonate more with? Which one are you resonating easier with? But it's one of those, Saturn Uranus square will be kind of like this slow and frustrating kind of like, how do we get out of this energy? Or kind of like, how do we get out of this traffic jam? How do we move out of this? Where Jupiter and Pluto is going to be a fast and like energetic energy, kind of like no one's on the road, we can do whatever we want. And it's kind of more like letting it go and move forward kind of energy. Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Aries in March 2023 is going to be a really interesting energy for most of us. This is really only happens for Jupiter and Chiron every about 17 years on average or so. Jupiter conjunct Chiron is by far one of the most important Jupiter transits during its stay in Aries. Let's see, Jupiter conjunct Chiron gives us opportunities for growth and healing. Jupiter is all about expanding energy, and Chiron is, like I said, that wounded healer, how we keep moving forward. There's going to be a lot of people interested in stepping out into like healing, holistic healing, all natural herbs compared to other taking pills, prescription pills, that sort of thing, and kind of these kind of terms of kind of like, how do we bring this to a new healed state for a lot of people. Jupiter makes Chiron more acceptable energy and more accessible energy as well, bringing like coherent alignments and kind of like bringing in that healing into our world in a very powerful way, in a way that people can't really kind of like, oh, I'm ignoring it, or I know there's an herb I could take, but I'm just going to take this pill instead. That people are going to be like pushing back. Chiron doesn't have to be a hard one, but it's going to be one that's going to be kind of like pushing this agenda of Jupiter, kind of like bringing us to a new healed state very, very quickly. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of people kind of like delving away from pharmaceutical herbs and kind of, or medicines, and kind of moving more into herbs. There is a lot of commonality energy between Jupiter and Chiron. Let's see, Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius, which is symbolized by the half moon or the half horse Centaurian. Chiron is the Centaurian himself. It is both Jupiter and Chiron are connected spiritually about teaching and mentorships. You're going to see that kind of amplify as well. Jupiter conjunct Chiron is going to be offering us opportunities to heal in a different way, or kind of dealing in dualities of kind of like healing two parts of us where we thought they didn't connect, and now we realize that they do. And then this is a great time to find a mentor or a teacher and that you deeply resonate with. Not just like, oh, I'll deal with this one. No. Find one that you're like, wow, I can't believe I get to work with this person. That's going to be really interesting. Also, March 23rd, we are going to have Jupiter Chiron conjunction. Is going to be kind of a live version of Chiron, your deepest wound, becoming your greatest gift, of kind of like this energy of like the things that you thought you would not make it through at some point in your life, and now you're teaching others how to do it as well. That's all about Chiron energy, of kind of like really amplifying that. And then you got this spur of Jupiter energy of like expanding that, like not just helping one person at a time, but how can you do it as a group, or pushing this even more, or how can you make this energy even coming up even more. This is going to be a great time of kind of amplifying this energy with Jupiter in the sign of Aries from 2022 to 2023. It's one of those, how is this going to influence you? Because I will tell you, that's what most people are kind of like interested in, like, how is this going to affect me? How am I going to be affected by all of this? So Jupiter is in the Aries about every 12 years, and usually in the same area of your chart, because it's so far out, it takes them a long time to go around. So kind of like Jupiter was in Aries. I'll give you a couple of dates so you can kind of like, how was my energy during this time frame? April 1963 to April 1964. Let's see, March 1975 to March 76. Let's see, March 1987 to March 1988, February 1999 to 2000, and then again in June 2010 to June 2011. So kind of go back in your history of kind of like what was going on during that time frame, kind of what was I dealing with at this time frame. That's going to give you some ideas of like how this transit is going to be affecting you more than anything else. This Jupiter in the sign of Aries energy. Jupiter changes kind of like how we focus on our life, where we want to bring up, and kind of really brings in new topics, kind of like this new energy of like this new surge of energy where we want to go. And that Aries energy kind of kicks it into gear, like, let's get going now. And I will tell you that there's a lot of things that are going to require your full attention at this time frame, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh. Take one thing at a time and move forward, and just know that as long as you're expanding your energy, you are going to make Jupiter really, really happy. So let's do a couple of angel cards. Love my angel cards, and sometimes they can give us a really great deeper insight into what's going on. This first one, I already heard, is all about Chiron. A lot of us have wounds from being a child that can be overwhelming for us, kind of bringing up those wounded things that happened to us as a child that at the time we were like, oh my gosh, we're never going to get over this, and kind of being able to come forward. And so that's going to be kind of coming in from that Chiron energy of like that wounded healer, things that I never thought I'd make it through. Now I'm making it through, and let me show you how to do it. This one is Archangel energy. This is going to be bringing in some amazing energy from our archangels. Make sure that you are leaning on them to help or assist you in so many different areas of your life, and really giving them the time of where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to put my energy in? And that brings us to our next card, our focus. There are a lot of things to be focused on during this time frame, and I would say each aspect, each time, focus on what you want to do, what you want to bring forward, and how do you want it to look in the future. Not necessarily every piece of it, every like, oh my gosh, I need to focus in on every little detail of it, but it's one of those allowing that energy to kind of come forward. What is it that you are choosing to bring forward? What are you choosing to bring this energy into? And I'm going to pull my last card, and I'm going to show you what I get to see. This one is just drawing my attention. Blessings. This is a total blessing time to have this energy coming at us for the next year. This is going to be a blessing, and it may not always feel like a blessing, but it's going to be a blessing because it's going to kind of put some spurs to our sides of what do we want to create, how do we want to create it, and moving forward into healing and kind of like things that we've always wanted to do but have been afraid of. It is going to be a great time, and it's going to bring in many, many, many blessings to us. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.